Well, welcome to the latest in our series of Inside London Scottish, and I'd like to welcome you particularly to my new office which they've had built for me, and I think you'll find it's a really... Look, don't worry, it's not really my new office. This is actually the offices of the Welbeck Group, who are, as you know, official sponsors for London Scottish, and I'm delighted to be joined today by, former player Iain Fullarton. Iain, great to see you.
Thanks very much.
Now look, you... part of Welbeck, and we'll come on to that in a moment, but you enjoyed a couple of great seasons at London Scottish, didn't you? And you were part of that sort of new beginning when Simon came in with people, who were some of the players you came in with?
So I came in along with Paul Volley, James Brown, Ben Gossing, obviously Simon Amor, who's still there, and we obviously helped where we could to get the club back up to the heady heights that they're at now.
And was that an exciting period of play for you?
Yeah, it was very different. Obviously, I'd played Premiership rugby for 11 seasons, so I'd gone from playing at places to like Welford Road to Cinderford. So it's obviously got posed some challenges, but yeah, it's great. Really enjoyed it. Great bunch of lads, and for me, it kind of brought my career in a bit of a circle. So started off kind of completely amateur, and then ended up obviously playing some almost course rugby, which is fantastic. And
actually, any player would welcome that in their career, I think, as having had 11 seasons, you say, in the Premiership. Now, you started at Borders, I should say, and then you went on to Edinburgh, and then you came to England, didn't you? Which for a Scotsman must have been a tough decision to make to cross the wall.
I did. Well, my mum and dad said, quote me, that I'd said when I was 18 that I would never ever move south of Berwick upon Tweed, but I ended up in Manchester for 3 years, and then from then it felt like I'm in England now. What's wrong with going down to London? And I've been here for basically 10 years now, pretty much.
And of course you moved to Sale firstly, and there you worked with Steve Diamond. You worked with some great players there, Jason Robinson, Mark Cueto.
Yeah.
What other players were you working with there?
Obviously Sale, that's a lot of good youngsters coming through who are probably a bit older now, so like Charlie Hodgson, Andy Titterell, Chris Jones, who went on to play for England as well, and there's a couple of Aussies, Stu Pinkerton, Graham Bond, so we had a really good team and had a good couple of seasons there.
I think you finished second in your first season, did you?
Yeah, we did, finished second just behind Leicester, and then we won the European Shield, which I think it's Amlin now it's called.
Yeah.
Did well, and then 2 more years of sort of up and downs, we might say. But
now, I don't want you to give too much away. What was it like working with Steve Diamond? Because he was your coach at the time, wasn't he? What was he like? I don't.
He was fantastic. He's probably my favourite coach. Or director of rugby. If I look back over my whole professional career, he's a great guy to have on your side. But you wouldn't want to be in the opposition team when he's playing against you, because he used to be an awful lot of cheap shots and dirty tricks that he'd employ. As you can see from the recent ban, I think he's caught all the day.
Well, yes, we probably can't say anything about that, I suspect. But of course, he then moved to Saracens, and you went with him, did you, at that period? Did you?
Yeah, basically, it was a big move, and he took 6 guys down with him, which I suppose made sense to him. He felt at that stage that Saracens didn't have a great set of forwards, and at that stage, Sale had a good pack, so he took, I think, 4 of us down, and a couple of backs as well. So myself, Kevin Yates, Matt Cairns, who went out to play for Quins, Alex Anderson, who's now coaching at Saracens, and a couple of young lads as well. And it was a good move.
Now, between the sort of that professional era of the Premiership and then, as you say, playing at places like Cinderford or whatever, what was the biggest difference for you, do you think?
The biggest difference is probably bus trips home after the game, when you could just drink Rioja like it was going out of fashion.
This is when you were playing for Scottish, presumably, not for Saracens.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, I'm doing Scottish a disservice, because it was, I think, compared to the other clubs and those leagues, it was a very professional setup, and obviously Simon and the 6 of us that came, had we set ourselves relatively high standards, but obviously it was going from...
So it was a good Rioja, was it?
Yeah, exactly. But it was obviously going from kind of, full-time rugby to Tuesday and Thursday night, so it's obviously going to be different. But we did well, and I think that year the first year certainly we won most of the games.
Now, your international career, you won 8 caps, I think I'm right in saying, for Scotland.
It seems a long time ago now.
Well, the first 3 of which, if you could have chosen a country to play against, it probably wouldn't have been the All Blacks for the first 3 caps, but it was, wasn't it?
No, yeah, but who else would you want to play against? If you want to play international rugby, you want to play against the best. So, yeah, and I got capped twice over there on tour in 2001, and then I got capped again in the autumn 2 years later. yeah, it was a bit of a hard baptism.
And what was it like? I mean, that moment when you're facing the haka for the very first time, you've seen it on television and you've heard everybody talking about it. What was going through your mind when you were watching it?
Just bring it on. I thought it was fantastic. It was great. And the All Blacks at that stage were captained by Todd Blackadder, who was our lock, and a guy called Norm Maxwell, who I don't know if you remember, but he was probably one of the craziest guys I've ever seen.
He had the face-off with Richard Cockrell, didn't he? I think at Old Trafford.
Yeah, but he would fly. He was only about 15 stone, soaking wet, but he would just fly into rocks like it was the intensity of his play was awesome. So to play against him was brilliant, and I think I competed relatively okay and enjoyed it. And obviously we unfortunately got beat, as is Scotland normally do, against the All Blacks, but we fronted up and really enjoyed it. And obviously at that stage wanted to play more Test rugby. And
which you did, of course, and you played, I think, against Italy and Ireland, Samoa, and a couple of times against Australia. What is your best memory from international rugby?
I mean, it probably would be obviously playing against the All Blacks. You know, I also got good memories in 2004. We toured and played against Australia. I played both caps, first in the Telstra Dome and then in Sydney for the second Test, and played against Nathan Sharp, who was at that stage was the Aussie captain. So that was a great experience. Obviously, they had Gregan and Larkham, and a whole list of good players. So that was also a great experience. I was probably a bit gutted that I didn't make a World Cup, and I was close in 2003.
You just missed out, didn't you?
Yeah, and they took 3 locks. I think if they'd taken 4 second rows, I'd have gone. But Jason White covered second row, so I unfortunately missed out, and I was on standby, which was probably the worst place to be in for a World Cup. But yeah, no regrets and all that, and it was look back on a good career.
Now I think I'm right in saying the England players, if you get a new cap, you have to stand at the front of the bus and sing a song on the way from the ground to the dinner. As a Scotsman, what was the initiation on your first cap? Was there an initiation?
Yeah, there was.
Can you tell us?
I can tell you parts of it, but it did descend into too much drink at one stage. Basically involved about 21 shots of whiskey with my compatriots, followed by, we probably don't want to go into that, to be quite honest.
Normal training session. So now look, you're part of the Welbeck Group, and Welbeck Group are very heavily involved at London Scottish as well. What exactly is the tie-up there?
Well, I think the original tie obviously is from Greg Knight, who's obviously the boss MD at Welbeck and former player. So he claims to me anyway. Back in the day, he was known to be a fearsome back row forward, I think. So that's where the links come from, and obviously it's strengthened since then. There's a few ex-players that are working at Welbeck, and I just think it seemed a natural tie to Greg to obviously sponsor the club.
And for my benefit, what does Welbeck do exactly? Because I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, sure. So we're obviously we're a financial advisory firm. Right. We basically advise private clients. We advise corporate entities, so small, medium-sized businesses, on all aspects of wealth management. Which obviously in the current climate is I think it's probably been necessary more than it was, say, a few years ago when you could stick your money in the bank and expect to get 5-6% in it. There's obviously a lot of issues around taxation that we're involved in as well, and just generally making, trying to get as much bang for a buck as our clients can get.
And who better than a Scotsman to try and get you to get bang for your buck? So look, going back over your career, whether it was amateur, professional, international, who was the worst person you had to room with through that period, you reckon?
The worst person?
If you had to be on a tour and you thought, oh no, you look at the team sheet I'm rooming with.
I mean, there's quite a few, but I guess probably in the professional era, probably someone like Chris Chesney, who many people will know played a lot of time for Saracens. He was just a smelly bloke, and his chat was even worse. And
never the most subtle player either.
Exactly, no, he wasn't.
If there was a fight on the pitch, I remember as a match official, you would normally find chairs in the middle of it.
Pretty much.
Well, brilliant. Well, I'm sure there's probably more you can tell me off camera. I know you're going to be the next couple of games at home at the Athletic Ground. We look forward to seeing you down there. And if anybody ever wants to come up and ask this man about his international career or Chris Chesney and how he smells or anything like that, then I'm sure, Ian, you'd be more than happy to talk to them.
Indeed.
Ian, thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem at all.
Cheers.